y'all. I am Hope at Crafty Hope, and I welcome you here. I am working on the 4 core challenge from Ina Salisbury. Each month, Ina offers up a challenge that has 4 main components that she calls the 4 core challenge. I will link over to Ina. She will reveal what she made at the beginning of September. Today's 4 core ingredients are: 1, to create wall art on a sturdy substrate; 2, to make a mosaic design, a pattern or an image; 3, to work with several colors and textures; and 4, to send in a second photo with a close up of your mosaic. So, I am checking off the number 1, wall art on a sturdy substrate, by using this like shadow box thing. I picked it up at Michael's in their like dollar spot area. I think maybe I only paid $1 for it. I did not dig the wood color of it for some reason, wanted to alter that. So I took just some white gesso and watered that down a little to do a bit of a whitewash. And I'm doing that on the entire inside, and then the outside that'll show, not the back, because, that'll be against a wall. I did clip off, there's a bit of twine that was on it, and I clipped that off because it's got a little metal hanger too. I don't need the twine that was on there. So once I got this on there, I decided to sand it a little bit. It was still wet, y'all. It's fine. I probably should have done that before or waited till it dried. It wasn't a big deal to me either way. So yeah, I'm getting it all over my sanding block. I did use this more coarse one and then a more fine grit sanding block for this. I'm not going to show you the whole sanding thing, but I just wanted you to know I did sand it and ruin one of my sanding blocks in the process. So, for my mosaic design, as well as working with several colors and textures, I have decided to make a button mosaic. So, I love buttons. I pick them up all the time at yard sales and thrift stores and wherever. And I have sorted some of them by color. And so I'm grabbing a little bit of golden, what is that, light molding paste, and spreading it in with the palette knife. And I'm going to work through the rainbow colors. I'm not doing all 7. All 7 didn't fit. And I don't know if you can see the light blue down there on the bottom left. There's not very many of that one. So it worked out fine. I did 6 colors instead of the 7. And so that's several colors, and as well the buttons themselves have different textures on them. So I kind of hope that works for Ina's um 4 core challenge here, because I was actually not sure if I was going to get this challenge done. If you've watched some of my other videos, this month I got COVID, and so that has had me kind of down in the dumps. I was sick for about a week, and I am still recovering. You may can hear it in my voice. I'm still kind of froggy. So anyway, this is done. This is a super quick project that I threw together. I really like it. I hope you do too. But so my mosaic, you can see I took my buttons and I'm just pressing them in to this light molding paste. And that's really the extent of it. So I've got that first row down. I'm going to scoop out some more with my palette knife and just push it around enough that I can get another row in there. I'm not trying to put too much out at a time because I didn't want it to dry up before I could get my buttons in there. And I'll tell you too that some of the molding paste does kind of squeeze up through the holes of the buttons. And I just kind of, once that started drying a little, I take a paintbrush, and like a coarse paintbrush, and just kind of brush it off in the areas where it was popping up through. So I'm going to repeat this until I get all 6 colors that I am using in this. You can see I filled in like where there was a small one above, a bigger button, and on this side I'm working from the right over instead of from the left to make sure I fill in some of the gaps there. So yeah, this was super easy. It didn't take real long for this to dry, though I am going to put it aside for a little while and let that molding paste kind of set so my buttons don't fall out. But I did pick it up and like turn it over and it didn't fall out. And while it was drying, I went and looked at some vintage photos, trying to find something that was kind of playful. I felt like the bright rainbow colors felt very like art room or daycare or just fun. And so I went through a bunch of photos looking for ones with like kids on them, but I found this picture of these three individuals standing on horses, and it gave me a big old chuckle. So I decided that's what I was going to use because this felt very playful and fun. And so I've grabbed, what is that? That is a flour sack towel from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just tearing it down to be slightly larger than my photo. So you can see I'm kind of using my photo to measure everything out and tearing it down. I'm making sure I tear this because I like the fraying. That's, yeah, to me, that's that a little bit of extra texture in there, and it did want us to use several different textures. So this is another texture. And so once I get it cut, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch that photo onto that cloth. And again, that'll add a little bit more texture to this altogether. I'm going to glue it real quick with my glue stick just to tack it down. Oh, and I wanted y'all to see this is from August 31st, 1930. So it's from August, and it's Rose Ellen, James, and Wanda Lee. And I've took a picture of that as well because I really like, yeah, just how that was written and those names. It was pretty awesome. All right, so now I've got it tacked down. I'm going to run to my sewing machine and using some black thread, go around it twice just to frame it up. I'm going to cut off some of that excess black thread because it was kind of everywhere. You see I have to flip it over and do it, but it just did just a quick little stitch around, and then when I went around the second time I kind of made sure I didn't overlap the first stitches just to give it kind of that sketchy feel to it. Now I didn't like it sitting all the way in the back, so I'm going to bring in some little wood blocks here. These are from the Dollar Tree. I'm not going to glue them in quite yet because I decided that my photo on my fabric there is a little too floppy. Yeah, you can see there I can push on it. So I grabbed the backing from like a sketchbook. So that cardboard that's on the back of a sketchbook that's kind of sturdy. And I'm just going to mark it real quick with a pen, kind of using where my stitch lines are, and cut it down real quick and use a matte gel medium to glue it onto the back of my little photo and fabric scrap stack. So this was a super quick project, y'all. I'm trying to think, the video altogether, everything I had in there was like about 40 minutes. That doesn't count drying time. That was just my active time. But yeah, and so I've got it down to just, 11 minutes or so. But this was a super simple project. A lot of the projects I tend to do for Ina's 4-core tend to be a little more in depth. But since I wasn't feeling well, I let it slide. This was just a little something to get me going. So looking at the photo and looking at the box, that whitewash was too white almost. So I grabbed my Distress Oxide and Walnut Stain and just went around that outside edge, and I'm going to use a wet paintbrush to blend in that brown just a little bit over the face of this shadow box, just to give it some definition. That's all I really wanted. And the brown color of it kind of matches the like sepia tones that are in that photo that I'm using. So that's all this is getting a little more continuity in everything. So, and I used my finger a little bit to help blend it out so it felt a little more natural. All right, so that is, I'm going to set that aside to dry and go ahead and grab here in just a second once I, finish futzing. Grab my photo there now that it has, that matte gel medium has dried, and use some E6000 to glue those 4 blocks. Now I did make sure that they were all like level on the back. And I'm just going to put them kind of a little in from the edges. I'm not being real fussy about exactly where they go. I just need them to hold that photo up above the buttons a little to give it some depth. And I let that dry for a while, and I'm going to look at it for a minute and decide, yep, I do like that. And I'll use that same E6000, put it on the back of those blocks. Yeah, did you see me like throw my hands up like, stop, just do it. So I'm going to make sure I put plenty of that E6000 on those blocks so that if there's some depth and difference in the height of the buttons, it doesn't matter. Sorry for my head in there. I was trying to get everything even. And I also have this little Tim Holtz band here that says capture life's moments, which I thought went perfect with that photo of, you know, those three living life and being silly, and, you know, capture those moments, whether it's in a photograph or in your mind. Make sure you savor them. And I let that dry, and this is it. This little project is done. I cannot wait to see what Ina has done. I'll put a link to her channel as well as the post about what this month's 4 ingredients were. So I hope you like this. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Don't hesitate to ask me any questions. I really appreciate you coming by and watching. Thanks so much. Bye.